None of these folks thought living their beliefs through their business would make them criminals in the eyes of the law. And these Christians are spreading the word of how an aggressive gay rights agenda can threaten livelihood, savings, and even freedom.
As more and more cases like those involving these panelists happen, Christians all across the country have to ask themselves, do we all need to worry?
Spokane florist Baronelle Stutzman faces losing everything. Washington State is trying to take all her assets because she refused to do the flowers for a longtime customer and friend's same-sex wedding.
Whether you're Christian or not, you have to be very much aware that the government is coming in trying to tell you what to think, what to do, how to act, what to believe, what to create. That is not a free America. When they can come in and bully you into an agenda, we do not have a constitution.
At this Washington, D.C. gathering, Stutzman was asked why she wouldn't take a settlement offered by Washington State.
I wasn't offered a settlement. I was offered an ultimatum. Either you will do as I tell you to do, you will think the way I think, you will perform the way I think you should perform and create. And if you don't, I'm going to destroy you.
Kentucky has taken T-shirt printer Blaine Adamson to court for his refusing to print T-shirts for a pro-gay and lesbian festival.
So here's one more case like dozens of others across the country now, where a Christian business owner was treated as if he's doing wrong when he says all he's doing is backing up his beliefs.
He thinks all Americans need to be concerned.
I don't believe it's just Christians, but again, non-Christians, because our civil liberties travel together. And if the government forces me to speak a message, that's a scary thing, because as administrations change, as policies change, that same force could apply to someone who thinks totally different than me.
Kelvin Cochran lost his job as Atlanta's fire chief after defending the biblical model of marriage in a private book written for a church men's group.
Regretfully, we're seeing a trend to where if you openly live out your faith, it could actually cost you your career or your business.
These owners of a Phoenix art studio are fighting a new city ordinance that could jail them if they ever refuse to do art or calligraphy for a same-sex wedding, or even publicize why they wouldn't. Their lead attorney, John Scruggs.
And it's very scary when the government has the power to tell a business or really anyone, you can post this statement on your website, on the internet, you can't post that statement.
Carrie Kupek represents Colorado baker Jack Phillips, found guilty by the state Civil Rights Commission for refusing to bake a cake for a gay wedding.
And they compare Jack to perpetrators of the Holocaust and slave owners. This was extra upsetting because Jack's father had fought in World War II and was part of the D-Day invasion.
Jesus has promised us that this kind of thing would happen at some point. So I think it's just a reality that as our culture changes and we hold to the truths of God, that we're going to face this kind of thing.
We no longer live in a free marketplace of ideas. We live in a society where the government can tell us what to say and believe. So that should be concerning for not just people of faith, of all faiths, but people of all beliefs.
But all these Christians say in this decaying culture, it's important to make stands like they have.
Jesus specifically said, if you deny me publicly, I'll deny you before my Father in heaven. So when we have to make a choice according to the way I was raised, when you got to make a choice between your faith and your job, you choose your faith.
Damaris, a 25-year-old woman from Providence who did not want to give her full name, was doing an interview with ABC6 Wednesday night describing an alleged clown attack from the night before.
I don't know what they came here for. I don't know what they wanted from me. It was a scary thing because I didn't expect that to happen to me at all.
As she started to give more details of the incident, everything started to unravel on Arald Street. Our cameras rolling as an unidentified woman attacked Damaris on her porch, calling her, among other things, a liar. Not long after that, several men pulled up, joining the fight.
How they know them clowns at my house? Huh? They got fingerprints. They better not been used.
The fighting continued down the street. One man pulled a switchblade. Damaris seen here walking back to her home bloody.
A Christian-owned bakery in Ireland lost its appeal to overturn a conviction that found them guilty of discrimination. The Ashers refused to bake a pro-gay marriage-themed cake in 2014. They were ordered to pay the plaintiff, local gay rights activist Gareth Lee.
We have always said it. It was never about the customer, it was about the message. And the court accepted that today. But now we're being told that we have to promote the message, even if it's against our conscience. What we refused to do was to be involved with promoting a political campaign to change marriage law in Northern Ireland. Because we're Christians, we support the current law, and we felt that making this cake would make us responsible for its message. It's been a trying time, but we're thankful to God and His faithfulness to us through everything.
Those close to the Asher family say an appeal will be filed with the Supreme Court in London.
CBS News has learned federal law enforcement officials are becoming increasingly concerned about the risk of violence as Election Day nears. We're told threats have been made on social media and in other forums, raising alarms that some of them could become a reality, not only on Election Day, but before and after.
Saida Baghili is 18 years old. She should be full of life. Instead, she is slowly dying, starving, with no access to food or medicine in her tiny fishing village south of Hodeidah, after 19 months of relentless airstrikes by a Saudi-led coalition on Yemen's Houthi rebels. It's hard looking at these images. Imagine being Saida's own mother, completely helpless, watching your own daughter trapped and suffering. The UN says more than 7 million people in Yemen desperately need food, and 1.5 million children just like these are suffering from malnutrition. They are the victims in Yemen's civil war. Innocent, but with these images only now starting to shake the world's conscience. Innocent, but hopefully not forgotten. Mohammed Leela, CNN, Abu Dhabi.
A new report shows Hillary Clinton tops the list of candidates who have received campaign donations from Islamists. That list was compiled by the Middle East Forum. They define an Islamist as someone who shares radical Islamic ideas with people like Iran's leaders and the Islamic State. They want to see Islamic Sharia law imposed on people of the United States. MEF says Islamists like the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, are trying to influence politicians this election season. Senior officials from CAIR have donated almost $20,000 to Hillary Clinton's campaign. Donald Trump has accepted no Islamist campaign contributions.
We learned Friday the Supreme Court will consider what could be a landmark case for transgender rights. It involves a Virginia high school student who was born female but identifies as male.
Gavin Grimm is the transgender high school student at the center of what is now a Supreme Court case. The High Court will decide whether the female-born 17-year-old can use the boys' restroom, despite objections from the Gloucester Public School District in Virginia.
It's hugely significant.
CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford says the court's ruling could be used to resolve similar disputes across the country.
From North Carolina to Texas, this decision could really set the law for how schools must treat transgender students.
The Obama administration says transgender students should be allowed to use restrooms and locker rooms consistent with their gender identities. But more than a dozen states have issued a hold on that directive, sparking protests and lawsuits. For the past 2 years, Grimm has been extremely vocal in the fight against his school.
To me, this is one way that the school is saying we don't believe that who you are is legitimate.
If the 9th seat on the Supreme Court, left vacant by the late Justice Antonin Scalia, isn't filled, how will it affect this case?
If the Supreme Court just has 8 justices and they divide 4-4, then the lower court ruling would stand, and that would mean that the student would win, but it wouldn't set a nationwide precedent.
In the heart of Mexico City, a parade to celebrate the dead. It's the first annual Day of the Dead procession, taking spectators from pre-Columbian times through the conquest and into the modern world. Thousands of people line Mexico City's main boulevard to witness the spectacle.
I came here to reaffirm my country's customs, where we laugh at death. Sometimes death makes us sad, but mainly we accept it as part of life, without having to suffer.
I've been waiting 3 weeks for this. I love the skulls. I love the culture. It fascinates me. I'm delighted by the parade. It met all my expectations.
The parade was inspired by Hollywood. The opening scene from the James Bond film Spectre was shot in Mexico City last year. City planners decided to capitalize on the attention. In time, officials hope the parade will attract tourists from around the world.
Y el objetivo es eso, es poder compartir.
The objective is to be able to share with the people and bring them together around one of our most important traditions. We want to take a cultural project into the public sphere to help create community.
The Day of the Dead celebrates life and teaches people to take advantage of every moment. It's also a chance to honor the dead who were thought to come back to visit their family for a single night.
Although there's still 3 days before the actual Day of the Dead celebrations begin, that hasn't stopped tens of thousands of people from gathering here in Mexico City Central Plaza, waiting for the parade to arrive. Many here hope that this event will become a new tradition.
Mexicans have always been captivated by death. Skeletons here represent far more than a set of bones. In this parade, they take on a life of their own.
Gordon, more than 600 cities are voting to put the motto "In God We Trust" in city plaques and decals. Chesapeake, Virginia is one of them. CBN News spoke with Virginia Congressman Randy Forbes, a Republican who represents Chesapeake in the House of Representatives. He believes the motto can bring unity to a divided nation.
Chesapeake City Council decided to do what many other city councils have done across the country. They're now the 611th city council across the country. In the last 2 years alone, we're excited the Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation has gotten up over 1.6 million In God We Trust plaques or stickers across the country. 356 first responders in 26 different states putting it on all their vehicles. 34 states have adopted a similar resolution. We had Republicans and Democrats and people across party lines coming together and saying, this can unite us and this is something that's important for the country.
While some residents are critical of the motto, others are supportive.
FBI Director James Comey, in a surprising letter to Congress, laid out the vague details of the possibility of a reopening of an FBI investigation into newly discovered Clinton emails from Hillary Clinton's national security threatening personal email server debacle. The letter, addressed to a swath of congressional chairmen, read, "In previous congressional testimony, I referred to the fact that the Federal Bureau of Investigation had completed its investigation of former Secretary Clinton's personal email server. Due to recent developments, I am writing to supplement my previous testimony. In connection with an unrelated case, the FBI has learned of the existence of emails that appear to be pertinent to the investigation. I am writing to inform you that the investigative team briefed me on this yesterday, and I agreed that the FBI should take appropriate investigative steps designed to allow investigators to review these emails to determine whether they contain classified information, as well as to assess their importance to our investigation. Although the FBI cannot yet assess whether or not this material may be significant, and I cannot predict how long it will take us to complete this additional work, I believe it is important to update your committee about our efforts in light of my previous testimony." FBI Director James Comey stated. Republican Congressman Jason Chaffetz, who led an oversight committee effort to pursue perjury charges against Hillary, immediately tweeted about the FBI's announcement. It read, "FBI Director just informed me the FBI has learned of the existence of emails that appear to be pertinent to the investigation. Case reopened." The campaign trail was thrown into chaos by the news.
When there's news of the FBI's investigation, when it just happened a little while ago, they said, "Mr. Trump, I think they'd understand. We could skip your speech in New Hampshire. This is so big." I said, I don't have the courage to skip the speech in New Hampshire. Believe me, I don't have the courage.
I think whatever is going on here sets up a first term that is going to be a really raucous one, filled with more investigations, maybe impeachment proceedings. You got to believe somebody's going to want to do that. Right, Robert?
Well, it's actually already been articulated and signaled by House Oversight Committee Chairman Jason Chaffetz, a Republican of Utah. He's talking about ramping up GOP investigations in the new year, should Secretary Clinton win.
And we don't know if these emails pertain to her time while she was at the State Department. We just don't have any more information at this time.
Okay, really. You're just mystified by this whole thing. Is that what you're
I say
saying?
we're mystified, but we're unaware.
And Hillary, as expected, went on business as usual.
When you question the very institutions of our democracy, going back to the founding of our country, you are attacking democracy. Now, we have seen Donald Trump attack so many different kinds of Americans. We cannot just blow off what he's saying, because he still is saying it. He's standing up in front of large crowds, and you can see how he's egging them on, talking about rigged elections, talking about how we should just cancel the election and make him president. Right, yeah. Well, we've got to be vigilant about this. This is not something to be made light of, because there have been too many times in world history where somebody gets elected and then that's the last election that is held. So we have to not only stand up for whoever our candidates are, we have to stand up for the process of electing them, because that's how we lead ourselves. That's how we make decisions together.
Hillary's campaign has been nothing short of a parade of corruption and bottomless scandals, morphing into her platform as she runs for the highest office in the land. At what point do the American people become an accessory to Hillary's crimes by simply voting for her?